Dragons, travelers. The power of the owl bear.
Whoa!
Wow! Wait a minute, a druid can't turn into an owl bear.
Relax, it's just a movie.
Yeah, don't be a hater.
Rules are rules for a reason.
You're such a rules lawyer.
Damn.
Oh, damn.
Critical burn.
Ah, but the first rule is, if I say it's okay, it's okay. And Eric, you suck.
Well, hello, and welcome to the Cellar. All right, let's get the topic right off the bat. Everybody's the movie, okay? People are losing their shit over the stupidest things about this movie. Somebody that I once had a great deal of respect complained that it mixed Forgotten Realms and Greyhawk, or do you really think that the general viewing public who wants to come see a good slam bang action movie with a little humor in it really cares about that? Come on. To think that you can do a whole movie out of Greyhawk or do a whole movie out of Forgotten Realms without having an expert core of writers that know that insight. Come on, lighten up. It's a fun movie. I know lots of non-D&D player people, non-players that have gone and seen it and enjoyed it. Lighten up. Be glad that they made a movie. It looks like it'll break even, and we hope. Let's hope word of mouth continues so that they make a profit and decide to do it again. Don't be one of these bleeding souls that I'll never give another cent to Hasbro. Well, then I guess you'll never buy another family game or whatever, because they own almost all of them. Get over it. If Hasbro misbehaves again, then you got to climb up on them. Well, I'll be right there with you on the barricades. In other words, in the meantime, get over it. Okay, here we go. Sorry to hear everyone, not everyone, brought back more than just good memories from GaryCon. Some of us did bring back other than good memories. Hope everyone stays on the mend and no one has any lingering effects. Well, unfortunately, I got over it fairly quickly, though I am still positive on the test. My poor wife has lost her sense of smell and taste and still hasn't gotten that back. She got it. It affected her much harder than it affected me. Hope everyone's okay. Saw the movie. I think they nailed it on a lot of things, but I especially liked how they handled magic, especially Simon the Party Sorcerer. My oldest boys, 11 and 13, loved it and said they thought it was funny. Hope you have a restful weekend. Best wishes to Jim as well. Thanks for the videos. You're welcome. I'm feeling much better and trying to resume everything that we gave up for a couple of weeks. I hope you get better. I went to listen to Dan the Bard's Bard Camp, and it was awesome. You really got to go listen to it. Go to his website, sample a couple of pieces. This guy does brilliant music about role-playing. It's brilliant stuff. I have all his CDs. I think I have all his CDs. And I used to be one of his best salesmen because I still like to tell people about Dan the Bard. Some great stuff in there. It was excellent getting to chat with you for a few minutes outside of GaryCon. Sorry you caught COVID. Hope you feel better soon. Hope to see you again next March. Yeah, well, I hope to be there again next March too. And if we only chatted briefly outside, then that was probably when I was going out for fresh air and to see which of my smoking friends were out in the smoking areas. I vape now, but I still like to go out there and see all my friends that still smoke. I'm glad we had a few minutes. Okay, you know, Tim, how you have high areas of high mana magic and low mana in your world, Mikanda. Right. What about having areas of higher and lower levels of XP? Reason. If you have an area of the world that you wish to reserve for some epic high-level quest, you can make the monsters harder to kill, but the addition of negligently low XP awards for really hard obstacles objectives would likely be more off-putting than anything else. Well, yeah. If you're looking at constructing a campaign setting, now, however much of a landmass it covers, it can be. You can do a campaign in a relatively small landmass, believe me, and you can, the world is your oyster. Have a ball. High mana, low mana is just a quirk that I have in my world, influenced by several books that I've read about ley lines and things like that, and it's just it's a wrench in the works every now and again, but who knows how often it might come up. I can put it out at the very beginning when I build a continent or a large island. I can put those out there before anything else, and then I can start crafting my story, my campaign, whatever, and they now fall where they may. There's not a lot of them, but they can be fun. A place for high mana would be the ruins of an old sorcerer's tower, where there's still a lot of lingering mana, both good and bad, or just neutral, whatever. And not knowing that, you could have a lot of fun with high mana areas. You can have low mana areas where the spells don't work as well, and now you got to think outside the box. As far as low and high XP, I think in my opinion, high XP is high difficulty obstacles and monsters. High difficulty to deal with, whether you're killing them, trapping them, trying to outwit them, whatever. I don't know what you'd have for low XP unless you... I don't really understand where you're going with this, because low XP would be, okay, let's all go down and mow down orcs and let's go slay goblins and go kill a few thousand goblins. Well, you wouldn't want to do that, because that's like saying, okay, a big lobster, we'll say a foot-long lobster, is capable of delivering quite a pinch, a hit point or two anyway. So, what is its XP value? If you throw a bunch of lobster traps into the water, and you catch a bunch of lobsters, and okay, you now got 20 lobsters, and you decide to boil them all and eat them, do you get the XP for that? No, of course not. That's silly. That's food. If you go out and slay a deer out in the wilderness to feed the group, you don't collect XP for slaying a deer. At least you certainly wouldn't in my world. That's XP is from overcoming obstacles and defeating enemies, not feeding yourself. So I really don't understand the low XP. It just, this is where if you let a bunch of high-level characters go slaughtering a whole warren full of goblins, now in that type of instance, I would definitely greatly reduce the number of goblins by the fact that they didn't stand a chance. defeating something in combat is one thing, slaughtering it is another, and that's just my quirks and my world. Let's see. Tim, we love the original Tramp art, but also greatly admire the work of Elmore, Easley, and Parkinson. Any personal preferences? Well, I've met Elmore and Easley, and I find them both to be very fine and honorable gentlemen that have an amazing amount of talent. That said, my answer would be Tramp because of what he brought to the fantasy palette of publishing. The covers that I was doing on Dragon at the time were fairly subdued, not a lot of flash, not a lot of bright colors, though there were a couple. And I found out that bright yellow is the kiss of death. But anyway, Tramp's art, particularly through Wormy, brought vivid color to the palette, to the eye. Wormy was bright colors, and people were like, wow, they really popped off the page. And then when Tramp started doing covers and back covers, again, he was using bright, vivid colors, not a lot of subtlety or shading involved, though he certainly proved that he was capable of all that in some of the work he did. But I thought that the irreverence that he brought with Wormy, and then turned that around into those amazing covers, and you know, the iconic prying the eye out of the idol, was just a delicious shock to the eyes, and in some ways paved the way for Elmore and Easley. I'm not familiar with the other person that you mentioned. It might have paved the way for them to use their boldness in their coloring and their tinting, made it more acceptable, in my opinion. And Tramp and I were very, very good friends. So, yeah, I admit to a little bias there. But some of the stuff he did, the colors were so vivid, so vibrant, that he really shook up the status quo. Pardon me, I'm a little dry. All right. All right. Speaking of ability scores and improving them. Well, I guess we must have. This may not be very old school of me, but I like to let players raise their abilities when they level up, 0 to 2 points to distribute each level, to no higher than 18 in any one score. Since the average total for abilities when you roll 3d6 is 63, I treat 62 plus level as the average total. Characters with below average scores get 2 points when they level up. Those with exactly average get 1, and those with above average get none. Abilities are mostly there for the ad hoc rulings and helping DM and players better conceptualize the character rather than modifying in a huge way nearly every action a character takes. Strength, for example, doesn't affect melee combat at all, like in pre-Greyhawk OD&D. Because of this, players don't feel obligated to distribute their points in an optimized way, and I hope can better relate to and roleplay their character. Do you allow any stats increase above 18, or would that work to destabilize your house rule system? Now, that was a follow-up, so I don't know if they're asking me or asking the original poster, though I'm guessing they're asking the original poster. To be honest, I don't like the idea of just dishing out extra points. Personal opinion, makes it way too easy, and it devalues the points that you begin with. It devalues when magical things happen and your strength goes up or your wisdom goes up because of something that happened. If you can just expect them to go up, if you play long enough, you run a bunch of characters that are all 18s. Boring. Boring. As a DM and being arbitrary, I can see instances where you may make it so that a boon of some sort, a bump on one of the numbers, is available to be had through doing something or killing something or finding something, and you can leave it out there and hope that that one of the ones you want finds it. And if one of your characters has a cringingly low 6th score, their dump stat, as we like to call it, helping them build that up slowly, I can maybe put my head around that. But the 3d6s that you end up, however many times you roll and however many you keep or whatever, those should be pretty close to hard and fast. In my world, in the way, in my ethos, only something extraordinary. Maybe a boon from one of the gods, or an archangel, or something could allow you to grant that. In the same vein as a counteract to level drain. All right, now if somebody's been level drained, then I would be a little more lenient in allowing them to get themselves buffed back up over the course of the next adventures. But that would be getting them back to something they had, something innate that they were created with. Born with. I don't know how that works. And do you allow for any stats increase above 18? Well, he says no, that he doesn't in there. So I guess it's really asking me, and no, I don't. There's no 19s or 20s. I do allow percentile rolls for strength only because that's in the spirit of Conan. And we've been doing it since the beginning. And so I'm okay with that. Super ridiculously high strength should be very super ridiculously hard to have. So to get the 18 to begin with, okay, I might, if given a circumstance, I might do percentiles on intelligence in the case certainly of a spellcaster. Not only are they smart, they're really smart. And therefore craftier and harder to defeat and have better saving throws, etc., and all that would entail. But that's just the way it would work on Mikanda. The thing that the thing that made 1E bards powerful wasn't the class bard, but the dual classing path. Well, it is, but okay, semantics. You're taking 5-6 levels of fighter, hit points, Thako, and then thief, and finally bard. Yeah, and that's why bards are so badass, because they got to be able to do all the other stuff. They got to be able to pilfer. They got to live. They got to be able to fight if they get caught in flagrante delicto. And they got to be able to soothe the savage beast by telling tales or singing songs or whatever, writing odes and epic poems. If you want to compare apples to apples with the 2E version, you need to include leveling up your character as a fighter to 5 or 6, skip thief, and level up 2E bard. Well, the point is, and the point I was making then, 2E nerfed them. And I don't agree with it. I still don't agree with it. I much favor the first edition bards. Because if you can get there, you ought to be a badass. You ought to be crafty. You ought to be oily and slippery and function as a bard would. And if you become a great enough bard, then your renown will precede you, and you'll be feted and fed and wined and dined by all the lords of the realm. Okay. As I mentioned, taking fighter class before bard makes that possible. Doing the same in 2E would make them quite similar. Most of my players are interested in the thief/bard side mostly, so it's never been an issue. But I can see why someone that's used to the entire process of leveling up 3 different times and wanting a frontline fighter would not be a fun. Well, there's a phrase, frontline fighter. What exactly is a frontline fighter? The big beefy meat sacks, the paladin you stick up front because you convince him that's where those glory is. The big meat sacks that got lots and lots of hit points, and so enable the more nimbler in the group to dance around and poke and parry, or if they're archers, wait for a clean shot and take somebody out. I don't know. The next says, bards are just plain lame, should never have been a standalone class, just ask Fafford. Well, I'm not exactly sure what Fafford would have to say about it, as the Mauser was a thief, but I think, yeah, he pretended to be a bard once, wasn't a very good one as I recall. Anyway, I like the old bard. He was a super duper character when you got right down to it, and if you, so yeah, it was 3 times harder than starting out as a magic user. You risk dying at low levels as the fighter, and then you risk dying at low levels of the thief, and then once you made it past that, now you risk dying as a low-level bard until you level up in the bard class. I think they deserve any advantage or any thing they get myself. But hey, that's just me. Bards have a heavy. The bard class in D&D is not the jungler, troubadour so much as it is the storyteller and poem writer of the druids class, but not a druid. So on WotC's D&D Direct, they announced they're producing a 50th anniversary documentary about the history of D&D. Have you or any of you know been approached about it? Do you think they're going to only focus on the WotC area? If not, and just breeze by the first 30 years or so. All right. It's my understanding that the movie that they're discussing is reviving a project that started probably 10 years ago or a little more. And my friend Anthony was involved in it, and it started out with 3 producers who had an argument and went their different ways, and some of them had this part of the footage and some of them had that part of the footage, but nobody had all of the footage, and it lay stagnant for a while. And then somebody out on the coast decided, let's revive this project. Now, if this is the project that my friend Anthony Savini is involved with, I was interviewed a bunch for it. But it was back before my cancer, back when I weighed almost 300 pounds, and I looked like a different person. Now, I'm sure any of the answers to any of the questions I gave are going to remain the same. It's just going to be really weird if that's the only footage that they use of me. And it might well be, because there was a lot of footage that was shot in Indianapolis on the lawn of a library. And we spent a lot of time doing it. So, where other people, as I recall, there were some other people that were interviewed for the same project. I wasn't there, only what I've heard. So I don't know how it's going to end up. If it's the old footage, I'm already in it. And nobody will know who the hell that fat guy is. I don't think, knowing a couple, three people, knowing of a couple of three, two or three of the people that are rumored to be involved, I do not think they'll gloss over the beginning. I don't think so. But we'll see. Okay. G'day, Tim. Well, an on-point comment about your last video. I volunteered to run a session of 5e for my local game store as WotC was promoting the movie by giving stores promo materials to do Learn to Play days. We ended up with 2 tables of 6 players. I took all the young kids. I had a whole table who had never played. The youngest was a 7-year-old lass. She was exactly the spoken-over player you talked about, so I made sure to give her some attention to get her ideas heard. She was a cleric and asked if she could throw a health potion on a zombie. Now, rules as written is not going to do much, but I wanted to reward her for thinking outside the square, so I let it kill a zombie who was on 2 hit points. Well, she was hooked, and other players stopped droning her out. She had a blast, gave me a high five. Also gave out some flowers and promoted my club. I'm trying to get off the ground. Hopefully we'll start building some players. Great. Great. You're proselytizing for the game. It's the only kind of proselytizing that I support. I probably would have done exactly the same thing when she says, what if I throw a... Because it's an opposite effect. A zombie's already dead. If you threw health on it, I'd let it kill it. Why not? Throw a heal potion on a zombie. It's so conflicted it crumbles. Brilliant idea. Shows you what fresh minds can do when they're thinking outside the box. And you probably got a couple of potential players. And you keep playing 5e with them because it's simple and it's easy and they love it. And then someday a light goes off and they learn to play old style, old school. But that's somewhere in the future, we hope. All right. Okay. Your point concerning a chance of success for players, however slim, was borne out to us while watching a played Call of Cthulhu scenario on YouTube. As the game concluded, the majority of the party were dead. Okay, no problem with that, but as the game ended and the plot was explained to the players after questions, it was evident to my brother and I that the situation was undefeatable in any way and left us nonplussed, to say the least. Call of Cthulhu is a horror RPG, but even accounting for the same modicum of success, some modicum of success should be applied. Thanks for your time. Love your videos. Get well soon. And he also went on to come that He wanted to make sure that non-plus meant the same in our vernacular as it does in his, and I believe it does. I'll be honest. I've never had the slightest desire to play Cthulhu or any of the vampire games. Personal preference. Cthulhu, because I don't think there's any kind of a winning scenario in Cthulhu. Because if you're messing around, I don't care how many weeks you manage to mess around successfully, when the elder god or whatever comes through the portal or whatever, which always happens to Cthulhu, you're all ground meat. Cthulhu is not one I would choose to play. I have watched several at conventions over the years for varying lengths of time. And a couple of times I got up because the screaming was too loud as the elder thing came in and started rending half the village. Yeah, there should always be a chance, no matter how weird. Now, I don't consider rolling a 1 on a 100-sider to kill the elder god 3 times as a chance. I don't in any way claim to be a Lovecraft expert. I never cared for the Lovecraft novels. Personal preference, never cared for it. For one thing, there was too many names I couldn't pronounce because I was younger at the time. I believe that there's no point in playing if there isn't a chance of success. You shouldn't give them just... Now, they can give themselves a non-winning situation. I've used the example before of starting a new campaign with a bunch of low levels. You can go see what's making the livestock go missing. You can go see something else that's a little tougher, or you can go look for the wyvern that's building a nest out in the mountains. And if you go for the wyvern, you're probably not coming home. You have to have challenges commensurate with your skill level. I think it's up to a DM, or whatever they call the DM in Cthulhu, to make challenges commensurate with the skill level of the players. There should always be a chance of dying, but there should always be a chance of winning. Now, I don't necessarily say if there's this much chance of winning, there's got to be this much chance of dying. No. I'm not saying that at all. But there has to be some chance. In my worldview, my game view, why, if you know you can't win, why bother? All right? It's... Now, there are non-winnable solutions or non-winnable situations that can be fun. I published a game called Snit Smashing, which it was almost impossible to win as the Snits. And yet you played it because it was a silly game and it was fun. Well, having your character ripped limb from limb and toasted and fricasseed over a fire is not fun. And so Cthulhu and really horrible stuff like that is a whole level of terror. Now, it's feasible that you can find a group that wants to play it for a while just to see how many gruesome ways they can die. That can. I'm not saying that can't be fun. But in my personal opinion, beginning a Cthulhu campaign and expecting to make it to the end is probably blowing smoke up somebody's hind end. Perhaps your own. Let's see, what else? If you haven't seen the movie, go see it. I think with what so many of us came home from GaryCon with, it's a stark reminder that if you're going to another convention, wear a mask, We're not out of this yet. This new variant is wicked, and I'm waiting to get another booster for the new variants, which I'm sure is one of which I just caught. So an object lesson from GaryCon would be, don't let your guard down. Believe me, even a mild case like mine is not worth it. And on that somber note, I guess I'll say, Dodata Govi. Hello, and welcome to my cellar.
The Curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs. Still quite a feller, the Curmudgeon in the cellar. Last man around when them rates went down. Calling Gary in that Lake Geneva town. Hey Gary, it's an awful mess. Let me edit, we'll have success. D&D and Dragon Magazine. He's the Curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs, but he's still quite the feller, the Curmudgeon in the cellar. Magic missile, it's a mortar shell. Make it hit in the first level spell. Brought psionics to the game to attack that wizard's brain. DSR and fantasy, collection of micro armory, Titan with Tramp under a tree, high as could be. He's the Curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs, but he's still quite the feller, the Curmudgeon in the cellar. Still quite the feller, the Curmudgeon in the cellar. Curmudgeon.